श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओं सर्वेभ्यः सुस्वागतम्। अद्यतन पंचमे कक्षायां प्रार्थनां कृत्वा प्रारम्भं करिष्यामः। ओके ओके। ॐ ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुरुरेव गतिर्गुरुमेव भजे गुरुणैव सहास्मि नमो गुरवे। न गुरोः परमं शिशुरस्मि गुरोः मतिरस्ति गुरौ मम पाहि गुरो। वागर्थाविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्थप्रतिपत्तये जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। वासुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। हरिः ओम्। सर्वेभ्यः नमस्कारः। Welcome to the fifth session today. So before we get into the session, there were a couple of questions. Okay, a brief description of the prayer would be awesome. So I can follow as you are reading. Okay, probably we'll do that in the next class. I'll plan for it and come to the next class. We will do that as the first part of it and take it from there. Thank you. So a couple of questions that came up in the group and that I want to address before we move forward. In the first few sessions, one of the question in the first few classes we discussed that we spoke about the education system after the British. So one thing that came up was the question that was asked was why was only the British system discussed, British education system imposition discussed, but not the Mughals imposition of education. So good question, and I really wanted to address it. See, there is a key difference. Even though both Semitic religions are a very self-centered and very conversion related religions, the way they operate were distinctly different. The Mughals, when they invaded, it was at the by the forceful conversion that they were trying, and that's exactly, even Christianity was doing it quite a bit in the initial years. And as a result of that, it was only a forceful conversion. There was loot, there was a lot of plundering that was happening. But the core education system was not impacted. Those who converted went on to that sort of education system and they went about doing it. Whereas the Portuguese also tried forced conversion. And if you look at the Portuguese Inquisition in Goa, it is very, very, it's very hard. It is very heartening. It's very, very saddening to note what is the kind of things that they did in Goa and in a few other places, even in Malabar. Post that, even they did not interfere too much with the education system, nor did the Dutch do it. It was only in the British, having learned their lessons when they invaded, their objective was also pretty much similar: convert people and get them to their way of thinking. That required them to adopt strategies that were not successful in the past about 800 to 1000 years. Okay, let me give a little bit of history here, and this is something that we should really remember. The first Mughal or the first Islamic attack on India happened in about The Akhanda Bharata, what I'm talking about, happened somewhere in the late 1700s or early 800 AD. That was by Mir Qasim when he attacked Baloch and from the Iran side. Okay. But to reach Delhi from that point, which is about 3000 kilometers distance, it took them about 400 years. The Delhi Sultanate and all came only by that time. This is significantly different from the way they conquered, say, all the way from Egypt or to Iran, or what was Persia at that point in time. Similar distance, about 4,000 kilometers. It took them hardly about 25-30 years to conquer the entire thing. So there was enough resistance in India, and this is something that is not taught in history. So that is the point that I want to make. And with that, that was one question that came, and I wanted to address that. The second thing that was asked, and that came as a question today, was you know, let me read out. Tell me in Shloka 11, tell me again. The Shloka begins with tell me again. Now, why this tell me again? You know, what is it to be? So, samsara, the way the world is. So, the reason this tell me again comes is, why is this saying as though it is implied? So, the continuum of samsara is assumed. It is spoken about everywhere. Okay. And this the very first shloka, if you remember, it says, or if you by reading this, you'll know everything that is here and that is outside. So we are discussing samsara all together. Always, the whole thing is in the scheme of samsara. So again, that's why it says, tell me again. So that is the reason it comes. Okay. To cleverness, what is the purpose? What should one aspire to be? Formal as internal and latter as external actions. That is not fully absolutely true. So, resilience, when I say titiksha as one example, what should one aspire to be? It is not necessarily only internal, that can be external focused as well, because all of us are externally focused. So, both the things can be both internal as well as external. So, with that, I think I've sort of addressed all the questions. Let's move on. Okay. So let's move on and see what are the other this one. Okay, we saw this last week. We saw the ninth shloka, Kim Gahanam, and we did a deep understand. We went into a deep discussion around the nature of Maya and what is the nature of Maya and how it is easy to get entrapped in Maya to thinking that the ego can say, okay, I will overcome Maya rather than saying, okay, I surrender and I move on. So that was the lesson that we learned. And who is the clever person? He said, one who is not deceived into pursuing these illusions. So that was the lesson we learned last week. And we saw this is Matras Parshastu Kaunteya. So what is the good purpose of life? So this question comes because what was the purpose of life? An idler or a procrastinator doesn't have a good purpose of life. So what is the purpose of life? Developing titiksha. So the titiksha is developed internally, no doubt, but the attack is from the external source. So please note about it. Okay. So your reaction to your external source is what is also a part of titiksha. So you can't just say that, it is only internal. There is nothing external in this. Okay. Okay. Then Kim Dukkham, what causes sadness? Joylessness. And then we said pettiness, incompetence. And this is where we saw. What is a worthy life? Standing all the test of all criticism. This was also, we saw this. Then what causes incompetence? Not practicing or not imbibing what is taught. This is what we saw. We will see what that imbibing can mean. Okay. Who is a vigilant person? We said a discriminating or self-aware person. Who is asleep? I gave the example of you cannot wake up a person who is pretending to be asleep. Somebody who is not a Kumbhakarna, you can even wake up Kumbhakarna, but somebody who is pretending to be asleep, no matter what you do, that person is not going to wake up, right? Because he knows that you are trying to wake him or her. Okay. So then this is a standard shloka. We said it's also part of our Bhajagovindam. What is temporary? Youth, wealth, lifespan. These are all fleeting, very fleeting, and will pass over very quickly pass out. Okay. Okay. This is what the question was. Tell me again, what is similar to the rays of moon? So it goes back, the good people. Why this? Uh, what is it that is, good? See, the things about rays of moon is that it is something that is good. The samsara, we're all stuck in this samsara and going about doing a lot of things. And the ray of hope, moon is a symbolic ray of hope. It is something sparshi, hridaya sparshi, which will tell us, okay, nice. What will be nice for us? Tell me again what will be nice for me. Please keep on telling me. In this samsara, I'm totally lost. So please tell me something. So that is the mood in which this is set. Okay. So ko narakaha, being subjugated to someone's or addiction or being, enslaved to something. So that is the answer that was given. And what is comfort? A state of detached attachment, dispassionate. Okay. So this is what we discussed. Okay. Then we said, what should one aspire to do? Serving everyone and everything around us. Bhuta hitam. So this, even though this bhuta hitam seems external, there is a lot of it is an attitudinal factor. It is not something necessarily an external factor. Okay, I can't, if I don't have the will to do it, I can't wake up tomorrow and say, hey, everything good should happen to the world. That's not good enough. To do that, it should be wholehearted. So that's also an internal factor that comes in. So let me just overall clarify about Prashnottara-Ratna-Malika. Most of it will be both internal and external. It will not be just internal or just external. So there is not a that dichotomy will not be existing too much. It will be both. If you have the right external, if the samashti is, if you want to connect with the samashti, the vyashti should be all right. So that is the anda and the pitta should both resonate with each other harmoniously to make sure things are going well. That is the whole idea of Prashnottara-Ratna-Malika. And in the process, preparing us all for the ultimate journey towards, moksha or gnana and all those things. Right? So then we said, Priyanja Kim Praninam, life. We all love our life, desire to live. That is the whole thing. In fact, that there was a Kim Bayam Hiha. That was one question. What is it? What is the root cause of fear? One question was there earlier, if you remember. Okay. So this one that we said Maranat. So one thing that I want to add here, at that time, see, one of the things about death is that we think it's about our death. Now, please note, it never says it's about your own death. Death is any death. Any form of death will bring a form of fear in you. It could be somebody else's death. It could be an animal's death. It could be any form of death is a factor that induces fear. That's a very natural fear. Okay. So please note, it need not that fear. The cause for fear when it says marana, because of out of death, it is not death. We are not thinking about our own death. The subconscious mind is very, very differently wired to see death in a particular way. Okay. That's why Yudhishthira says, Kimascharyam. That shoka is a source of that shoka that comes that shoka which comes is out of that fear. So that's where he says Kim Ashcharyam. Okay. So that physiological changes that come about, the psychological way it comes, this is the way it is. Okay. So there is a question on, is this a Pata Beda? Yes, there is a Pata Beda. There are two different versions. The Arsha Parampara of Swami Dayananda Saraswati has brought out this as Sadhyam. Even the Vedanta Bharati part, they are also accepting that there is a Pata Beda which can exist. So I'm not getting into which is the right one, what Acharya said and all. This is a Pata Beda. We'll just keep to that and move on. Okay. 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 So let's move to the 13th shloka for today for today's class. Ko anartha palaha Manaha Kasukada Sadhujana Maitri Sarvavyasana Vinashe Kaha Daksha Sarvathat Yagi. Sorry, Sarva Vyasana Vinasho Ko Dakshaha Sarvatha Tyagi. Okay, let's look at each one. Kaha Anartha Phalaha. What is the cause for that undesirable results? Okay. So, a lot of times, there is this whole idea that comes, expectation is the cause for undesirable results. Okay. So, this is something that I want to clarify upfront here today. So, a lot of people come to me. I work with a lot of management people. I work with a lot of top management and senior management people, and they come to me saying, it's a dichotomy. You say, undesirable result. You say undesirable result. How should I live without an expectation? So, expectation is not the cause for anarthapala or undesired results. Okay. Or rather, failure. The real cause for failure. So that means the follow-up question, the corollary question that they have in their mind is, why should I set a target if I don't know what this one is? So this is a dichotomy, this doesn't get resolved. That is not true. The cause for undesirable result is actually pride, self-centrism. How can I take this? How can this happen to me? That is the cause for undesirable result. If you say I thought this should happen. I worked towards it. I worked very well. This happened. You always come back and you can do a post-mortem of why that did not happen. Take corrective measures. Move on going forward. This is what is the key cause for undesirable results or failure. And this is exactly what we are imbibing in children today. I see a lot of youngsters who cannot take failure, not because they set the standard high or they set the standard very high or they achieved something, it was expectation. Their expected outcome was not there. But because we are filled them with this sense of pride, I need to get this no matter what. That I need to get this, and it is not something if I don't get it, I cannot live. I cannot do without this. If that is the attitude we have filled children with, we have gotten into trouble. Okay. So this is the key cause, and I see this especially in this see, as it is in youth, we all have a level of ego. That's a natural thing. There is a level of, I know the world very well. But if you're pumping it externally with a lot more inflated stuff, we are only going to get into this. Accepting failure is extremely difficult with today's youngsters, and I see it day in and day out, and it's a cause for concern in a lot of ways. Okay. So when you have success, it becomes extremely bloated, and the moment it comes, it's like a pin pricking, balloon. So this pride can cause a lot of undesired results in a lot of ways. So it is not blind ego. So ego is okay. Ego is a reflection of that self. But ego, and that brings in a level of self-respect that we need to have. But when it exceeds and gets into a pride, there is nothing better than this or nothing better than me. That is the state of pride that Acharya is talking about. Okay. So we should keep in mind, and this is something that I'm concentrating a lot with students today. And the cause for a lot of quote unquote depression that I see in children. In fact, anybody in the age group of 16 to 24, if you tell me they are depressed, I don't know what sort of a society we are living in, because they come to me, they tell me they have depression. They don't just tell me they have depression, they further qualify that depression with something that happened to Deepika Padukone at some point in time, and that is the exact depression I am going through. And then, and I have to start from there. So I now know Deepika Padukone's name registered well in my name, not because I have seen any of her acting or anything, but I know because these kids have been telling me, filling me with this information on a day-to-day basis. Every year I find this for the past past 4 5 years, it's just extremely over this one. And I then just start working on their not expectation. The expectations remain the same, just on the fact of how to handle their own pride. And in a lot of times while handling their pride, they get into losing their self-respect. That is the other extreme. So work with a way where ego is there, but it is not leading to pride. That is a huge challenge today, and working with a lot of people outside and doing things. So that is something I wanted to bring about. Then, okay, what is comfort? Sorry, we went. What is this? Why is this a problem? Yeah, yeah. Ka sukhada. What causes pleasantness? What is the cause for pleasantness? Pleasantness, sadhu jana maitri. Friendship of all the virtuous people. You'll never get into depression, trust me. You'll never get into that pride problem. You'll set a lot of high goals, very high goals, very high noble ideas, very long-term vision. And a lot of time, most of the times you'll achieve it without getting into any trouble. That is because of your kind of people around you. That is very important, and we need to work on this satsanga. So that gives you a level of self-contentment, and that contentment takes you a long way in doing a lot of things. So that is what it is. Then sarva vyasana vinashe ko dakshaha. What can clinically destroy all unhappiness? Daksha here is Daksha Yajna, that is where it is the Vinasha. So that is where Daksha Yajna Vinasha comes in. So what will clinically destroy all unhappiness? True renunciate. Work as though there is no pride. I'll lose nothing. There is nothing to be lost. Okay. As though there is nothing to be lost, start working with that sense. Set a very high goal, highest goal. I achieve it or not, nothing will be lost. I'll do the best that needs to be done. So that will lead you to that will destroy all level of unhappiness, or rather a sad state, or an uncomfortable state. All forms of uncomforting states will be destroyed if you say, okay, I have nothing to expect out of, I have nothing to gain out of this. I have nothing to lose out of this. Let me start working as though I have nothing to lose out of this. Okay. So that is the answer to, this is the 13th shloka. Let's move ahead. Kim Maranam. Okay, we first realized Bhayamiha Kim Kasmat Bhayamiha. What is the cause for death? So here it says Kim Maranam. What is death? Kim Maranam Murkhatvam Kincha Kinchan Kinchanarghan Yadavasare Kimchanargham Yadavasare Dattam Amaranat Kim Shalyam Prachannam yat kritam papam. Okay, let's go through. Kim maranam. What is actually death? So now they should relate to what is the fear. What is the cause for fear? It says murkhatvam, stubbornness. Foolishly being stubborn. I know I will prove my point no matter what. Keep proving it. If you are right, see, there is a way of taking this the right way, stubbornness, and there's a slight difference between self-confidently going forward and being different from the crowd and approaching something, and being stubborn. Now, stubborn originates out of pride, whereas self-confidently moving ahead requires you to just quietly explain if at all you need to, and move ahead with the task. Quietly do it and move on. Stubbornness will expect you to prove a point. Self-confidence will say, let the point prove for itself. The point is good enough to prove for itself. I am not the point's mediator to prove it. I'm just a medium. I'm not a mediator. I'm a medium to achieve that point. The point has its own way, it will prove itself. The stubbornness leads to a lot of problems. And that is the cause for this. That is what is maranam. That is the death. And worst thing, unwillingness to learn. Good example, I think I should give a modern day example out of this. Good example is, read the story of the Lehman Brothers in 2008 crash, why they had to shut down while Goldman Sachs survived. Okay. Or even for that matter, Lehman Brothers is a good example. The CEO had the kind of stubborn nature that was brought in. So you can, I mean, I don't know how much of it is in public domain. A lot of it is, most of it is in public domain. You can all read it up. How Lehman Brothers collapsed. Good way to understand how one should not be stubborn and unwilling to learn. And there was a reason why that person was so stubborn. The 25 years of experience in the markets and all that. But yeah, it's very important to learn. It's a very good indicator of what murkhatvam can actually look like. Okay. So, and that led to the death of an institution. It was not even the death of some, it was not the end of some person's career or anything. It led to the death of an institution of Lehman Brothers. They were all doing wrong things. I'm not disputing that. But when they built it right. Okay. So, Kim cha anargham. What is priceless? Okay. So what is priceless is something that is received at the time of need. Exactly at the time of need that comes and lands in front of you. Okay. You're rushing to the, say, hospital for some reason, or somewhere you're late for something, you desperately need to be there. Suddenly somebody comes and stops and says, hey, do you want to go somewhere? Can I help you? Nothing better than that. That is most, you can't value it in any which way. Okay. So there is no way that you can get to that, priceless, that is a priceless gift that you can receive. What you need, you're extremely hungry, you're extremely thirsty, we are extremely thirsty, we just go, we just see something and somebody comes and says, there is water, there is some buttermilk or something that you need. That's the most priceless thing that you can receive. Can you put a price on that? You may pay some 10 rupees, 20 rupees, whatever you want to pay. Is that the true price of it at that point in time? No. What is priceless? Something that is received. Anargham, priceless. Okay. Argham is priceful and anargham, Rgham. Okay. Let's move ahead. Ar. Okay. Amaranat kim shalyam. What haunts and torments us right until the point of death? What is the tormenting force? That is the question. Okay. The answer is prachannam yat kritam papam. See, when we are doing something wrong, there are two ways that something can go, so that we can act in a way that is not that is not in the right conduct. One, for instance, we are walking on the street, we are doing a lot of things, and so many things that come in the way. I mean, there is nothing that we can help to stop or do things. That is one way of committing something. Unknowingly, we are committing so many things that goes on. Okay, or we did not mean something, but something came out. We uttered something. That was something that is unconsciously. We just went into doing that. Here it says prachannam. Prachannam yat kritam papam. Consciously, we are committing some unworthy act. If you have consciously done something, say you just found something and took it, you knew that the person was going to be harmed and then you took it and did it. That is going to haunt us till our death. That is not going to leave you. Oh, what will happen? A good example for this is Ravana. He did so many blunders and went on to doing wrong. The way to look at it is, in Sundarakanda, for instance, there is this Hanumanta goes there and he would have, And Hanumanta is lighting the whole place. He's killing so many people before he appears in front of Ravana. So he is going around hitting everyone, killing everybody's all his mantri and everyone around. So the thing that comes to Ravana's mind at that point is, you know what? Oh, at that point in time, I had disturbed Nandi. Sometime I would have gone to Shivalaya, and then Nandi was there. He was disgraceful, and he did some mischief with Nandi. Oh, Nandi should have come in the form of Hanumanta now to do something to me. So this is the kind of thought that starts haunting you, even though there may be no connection, even there may be nothing going on. Same thing happens in you should read the case. You should read the sarga just before Ravana's death. The last night, Rama sends him back that day. Okay, days war and all is over. You go sleep tonight. Come tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll kill you. That is the kind of confidence with which Rama sends him back. That night he is just not able to sleep. You should see all the things that he recollects, what all wrongs consciously had committed, and who has come, what has happened. So at some point, some sadhvi sitting in the Himalayas doing tapas, he had molested her and he had done some wrong act with her. She had cursed him, I will come in the next year, I'll do something to you, and all. Oh, this is what Sita is. So he starts recounting all the things that he should not have been, he could have avoided in life. That is what will keep haunting us. So avoid doing those things consciously. See, there are many things that happen unconsciously, and we are regretful for it. We regret it. We come out of it. We do. That is not what Acharya is saying. Acharya is saying all those unworthy acts, when you know you are going to commit an unworthy act, knowing fully well you are committing it, avoid it. Don't get into that. It will haunt you. If it just haunts you till death and gets away, it is still better. If you carry without prayaschitta and paschattapa and prayaschitta, that is, yeah, welcome back to the next janma. Life starts beautifully with interest for all the time that you have lost. So that is what happens with unworthy acts. Okay. Okay. Now let's move on to this one. This is a very important shloka. It's a very beautiful shloka, and I will spend some time on this today. Okay. Kutra vidheyo yatnaha vidyabhyase sadaushadhe dane avadhirana karya khala parayoshit paradhanishu. Okay. Kutra videyaha yatnaha. What should always be in focus? In life, we'll keep doing a lot of 100 things. But if you ask, what is that core central theme around which everything should be focused? Yes, there is Paramatma, Atma Vichara, all that is different. That is not what Acharya is saying. But what should be the focus in life? What should be the key focus that everything should revolve around? So for that Acharya says, Vidyabhyase sadaushadhe dane. Around this, everything should go around this. If you see all this, Kutra videyaha yatnaha. Where? Kutra is where. Where should we focus everything on to? Right? So that's why everything, all the that's why it comes to Saptami Vibhakti. The all questions of Kutra, Kati, Kada, that is where, how much, and when, all these are addressed to Saptami Vibhakti. Vidyabhyasa, Saptami Vibhakti hai, Vidyabhyase. Sadaushadaha, Sadaushadhe. सदौषधम नपुंसकलिंगे भवति तदर्थं सदौषधे दानम दाने. Okay, let's understand each one in this. Vidyabhyase is not just learning. We saw two parts of Vidyabhyasa in the first two parts. That is basically, Shravanam, Mananam. These were the two things. I also said Mananam was taken away, and that is the reason we got into trouble. So the most important part of Vidya Abhyasa is where, after having learned, putting it into practice in a very different way, in some sense. So how do you put that into practice? The immersive and experiential learning we'll talk a little bit about it. Okay. The second one is Sadaushadhe. Now, Aushadhi is, we take it as medicine. Now, medicine is not the right Aushadhi Vanaspata Prativya Annam Okay. Or in fact, okay. Akashat Vayuho Vayoragnihi Agnerapah Apya Prithivya Oshadhayaha Prithivya Oshadhayaha. Now that is the Oshadhi we are talking here. Okay. That Oshadhi, that Oshadhayaha, Oshadhi Byonnam, from that Oshadhi comes Annam. So herbs and that form of herbs and plant kingdom and herbs, etc. Aushadhi, we'll talk about that. That is what Aushadhi, Byornam. That is the point. So that's why it is Sadaushadhe, it means appropriate nourishment. And why is this important? I'll just tell you. We'll have a discussion around this today. Okay. The third one is Dana, the act of giving. We'll think about what this giving means. What is giving? What is Dana? We'll talk about that. Let's go through each of these in some detail today. Okay. I spoke about Nididhyasanam in the class last time, and somebody asked me, what is Nididhyasanam? Immersive learning experience. So that is basically bringing this into practice, bringing what is done into manana, what is committed to the manana and deeply immersed in. Once you immerse, that will naturally start expressing itself to the outside world with a clear understanding. Okay, you letting that experience, that itself express itself, and your experience of that, and where we as individuals through our body become mediums, a media for that expression, is what is Nididhyasanam. So let me explain that again. Shravanam, that is basically we have heard and sort of heard it at the first time. Then there is, as the cow chewing and cut and everything, Mananam, deep contemplation. If you contemplate very, very, very deeply into it, then over a period of time, that contemplation will start expressing itself. That's exactly what most scientists will do. No scientist will say, I did this as great, so and so and so and so. No. They'll say, I did the thinking. They spent a lot of time doing that tapas and mananam and going on and on and on. That expressed itself in some form. That expression where they became the media. We become the media of expression. That medium of expression is us, I agree. But that expression itself, as it is expressing, that act, the outcome of that act is Nididhyasanam. That is what is Nididhyasanam. We have forgotten this art of Nididhyasanam because we are giving up on this manana. Everything has to be quick fix noodles. The quick fix noodle will not give you Nididhyasanam. If you want, and this is something that we should take up as the country, if we want to be at a state where we say we are a knowledge economy or whatever economy you want to call it, or we want to call it the knowledge capital. Okay. If we want to really do that, we have to let that knowledge express and we just become the media for that knowledge. If we don't become the media for that knowledge and we start taking it as I am going to express and I am going to do, we are just going to be fools. Our job is to do that mananam, deep contemplative understanding of what is happening. And over a period of time, they will start expressing through us. And we allow that free expression through us. That is Nididhyasanam. I can give a good example. All of you, I'm sure, have seen some forms of, HD videos these days. And if not HD videos, you have seen if you have seen virtual reality, putting those glasses and then going to some science gallery and getting an experience, a 360-degree experience of what is happening. That is sort of an immersive experience that you get. You're getting that internally, you're internalizing it. The feeling that you're getting at that point in time is what you will get if you let this Nididhyasanam happen. Okay. So that is the learning that will have, that is the way it will express itself. The expression of that learning is what is Nididhyasanam. How do you experience this internally is what I explained through this, VR and all these things that are going on today. A lot of things are happening. A lot of good work has happened in that front. AI and good VR applications are available. Please don't confuse that for Nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam is internal and that expressing itself. But your feeling of the inside will be something that you gain out of this out of the world experience that we call, no? So that is the kind of thing. Okay. Okay. Now let me just show you what happens as yeah, if we do if the Nididhyasanam is true. In Amarakosha, the fifth chapter of Amarakosha deals with, I mean, a lot of it deals with plant and the tree kingdom, the plant kingdom, flora. Okay. I'll just show you, if you do deep thinking, what is the kind of output that you will get on plants. Their study of plants. Okay. They have classified plants, Amarakosha classifies plants as based on, there are multiple classifications. I'll just bring two classifications based on how it expresses and is in use. One is called Vari Varga, all the plants that are through water. This hyacinth, then this lotus, lily, all these plants. Vanaushadhi Varga, forest and medicinal plants. All the medicinal plants, most of them will be available in forests. Okay. Manushya Varga, where it is for human usage, human consumption, all these, leaves and vegetables and all these plants. Or even for that matter, trees with mango tree, banana plant, etc. etc. Vaishya Varga, those which are of commercial usage, commercial crops. When I say commercial crops, don't take it as spices that are commercial crops today. That is not the only thing. Those are also in somewhere human usage. Commercial plants are mostly in the teak and these wood plants and other things. Okay, that's one classification. That's a straightforward classification. There's a deeper classification, and that will come out only if you have done deep manana of what has happened. That classification is based on how the leaf is. They've seen the leaf of each and every tree and each and every plant. And based on that leaf, they classify plants. Let me show you an example. Size and shape. Usually they have concluded that all medicinal and cosmetic plants have very small and aromatic leaves. On the corollary to that, food plants, where what we eat generally as food, will have large and robust leaves. This is very true. You take any plant where you get vegetables from, you'll usually get this. You see anything which has, the spinach or any other leafy vegetables, they'll have large leaves. Okay. You go to medicinal plants, you take gooseberries, amla for instance, is a big, wonderful, it's a small tree. It's not a huge tree. It's a tree nevertheless, but the leaves are very, very small. Okay. Similarly, you have lot of other where the na ushadam moolam. There is no root which does not have a aushadhi, which is not of any medicinal value. That's what Ayurveda says. If you see any medicinal plant, you'll see small leaves. Okay. This is one of the classification. The second classification on leaf type is texture and structure. Medicinal and cosmetic plants have very smooth, velvety, hairy leaves or hairy leaves. It should not be hand, it should be or. Okay, or hairy leaves. It is not very, rough, or it is not scratchy, itchy. Those kind of leaves are all thorny. That is not a medicinal plant. You can immediately make out. Okay. So that is one way of doing. The other thing, also what they have done, if you look at, say, the people tree, for instance, the way the leaf is attached to the bark, the dimension of that, based on that, there is a classification. Take the instance of jackfruit. Because it has to hold such a large leaf, it'll be thick. Whereas as it grows, it'll be thinner. The way it is attached, the gum that needs to be attaching itself to it. Based on that, there's a huge classification. The way the veins of the leaves go, there is classification on that. Okay. Leaf arrangement, plant growth, based on the plant's growth habits. See, the key is that they understood leaf is the point because of which trees survive. Now, whether they knew chlorophyll, they called it chlorophyll, or they knew it was this one and all is secondary. I will not get into that part. But they knew that leaf is the most important part of the whole plant ecosystem. If leaf is not there, the plant will die. Based on the growth habits of the plant, there's a wonderful classification on how the leaves are arranged in the tree. Because any plant is going to maximize its leaves surface area to expose to the sun. It could be through increasing the number of leaves, or it could be through the increasing the surface area of a given leaf. Banana plants are a good example where the surface area of the leaf is very large, and only one leaf keeps coming shooting out one after the other. The gooseberry is the other example of very tiny leaves where you have lot of leaves all around the plant. The idea is what sort of strategy is the plant using to maximize its food production, right? So our our ancient Indians acknowledged and knew this fact and classified based on this. This is the work of deep manana. The whole Amarakosha comes out of this. This work, to bring out this work, you can imagine the kind of manana that should have gone in. This is what happens. You teach this to students, you don't need to do anything after that. You just leave them in the forest, they'll tell you exactly what plant, where it is, and how it is. That's all you need to do. It is so well codified and so well structured. Okay. So this is what Nididhyasanam means. This is an example that I wanted to quote. So we have discussed Nididhyasanam. Let's move on and discuss appropriate nourishment. Food. What is appropriate nourishment? Okay. The value of nourishment is mentioned in a lot of places throughout our texts. Okay. I'll just bring because Taittiriya Upanishad gives a lot of details on Annam. Annamaya Kosha is discussed, and from Annamaya Kosha in Bhruguvalli it brings a great level of details on food. Let me show you some of these. Okay. Annadvai prajayante ya kascha prithvi kushritaah अथो अन्नेनैव जीवन्ते अथैनदपि यन्त्यन्ततः अन्नगुम्मि भूतानां ज्येष्ठं तस्मात् सर्वौषधमुच्यते. Anna is called Aushadham. That is why Annam is called Aushadham. That is the last part. This part. Tasmat sarva aushadham uchyate. Tasmat sarva aushadham uchyate. Everything is called Aushadha. Aushadham. Kimartham. That is what is covered here. Let us see. Okay. What it says. Okay. All existential beings are born out of food. That's a given thing. If there is no food, nothing is born. No. Prithivya, Aushadaya, Aushadibhyonnam, Annat, Purusha. Because that person eats, then there is a reproductive sap. Because of the reproductive sap, then the parents get involved, and then the child is born. Everything is born out of the food. Whether it is human beings or mammals or any other thing, the root cause for this has to be food. They live by food. The last part is very important. That is the atho anne naiva jeevanti. That is, they live by food. Athainadapi yantyantataha. That is what they're all food. They're all part of food. Anna gummi bhutanam jyeshtham. Okay. Okay, I will just yeah. So ya kashat prativi gushrita. They go back to the food itself. What happens after death? In some form, we become food for something else. Whether you are cremated, if you are cremated, then it's the ash. Ash goes back to ground and grow. It is a nourishing factor for some other plant to grow, and the food cycle is complete. If you are buried somewhere, or if the body is buried, it becomes food. It is the microorganisms will digest the food. it becomes manure and then it grows into something else. That's why the Parsis are doing the most primitive version of it. They put that body on the top of an altar where all the eagles and everything just comes and eats and goes. That is, you become Annam. So you started with you were born out of Anna, you lived by Anna, and Anna is what is consuming you. That is what it is. Food is amongst the first of all creation. Anna Gumhi Bhutanam Jeshtham. First of all, the foremost of all is Anna. Okay, food. Correct? So let's move on. It says, Sarvam Vaite Namapnuvante Yenam Brahmopasate Annagummi Bhutanam Jeshtham. It's a repeat. It has to. It is repeated twice, reinforcing the concept. Tasmat Sarvaushadamuchyate. This Annagummi Bhutanam Jeshtham and Tasmat Sarvaushadamuchyate is coming again and again. अन्नात् भूतानि जायन्ते जातान्यन्नेन वर्धन्ते अद्यत्तेति च भूतानि तस्मादन्नं तदुच्यत इति. It is called Anna for this reason. It is a medicine. Those who have an immersive experience of food indeed obtain all of that food. So please do manana on food. This is what this Brahmananda Valli I bring from Raghuvalli also. It is even more detailed there. From this food, all beings are born. Having been born, they grow because of that. All beings consume food, and food ends up consuming in all beings. Jatanyannene annena vardhante adyatteti cha bhutani. Food will consume you at the end of it. The food cycle is completed only when you become food for something else. That is our full understanding of the food cycle. Please understand that, I am not here to take everything, fill myself and run away to Mars. That is not a good idea. That is not something that is to be taken up. Okay. Living in a sustainable fashion within the framework of what is given is what is our job. It is not that we have come to Earth from somewhere, we are going to destroy Earth and then move to Mars. No, that doesn't work. Sorry. You can explore Mars, you can go there, you can stay, do things, but the attitude to do that should be very different. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, this is another. This was from Brahmananda Valli of the Taittiriya Upanishad. Okay, if I were to give you a little bit of background, Taittiriya Upanishad has three parts. The first part is what is to be done in life. The second part is understanding the Brahman. In understanding the Brahman, it starts with who we are, what is our physical body, and in that physical body and how we come into the physical body and what is the physical body all about. This Annopasana, it is called the Anna Upasana. That's why for us Anna is very, very important. Annapurne Sadapurne, Shankar of Pranavallabe, we take her to be the highest form. Cooking is the highest form of duty that anybody can do. Anybody serving food is the highest form of service that they are doing to this world. Today people are outsourcing it in a lot of ways. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. But Anna is very, very important. The importance of Anna is given everywhere. Anna does not mean just rice. Anna is all forms of food. And when I say food, it is not just food for human beings. Food in general for everything. The food cycle is complete only when everything goes back and becomes food. That is, food consumes the jiva itself, the deha itself, what is given as deha. Okay, so let's go to Bhruguvalli. Bhruguvalli gives it even more in even more detail. Annanna Nindyat Tad Vratam. Please vow. That's a vow that you need to take. Never ever to disrespect food. Take a vow never to disrespect food. Annanna Nindyat Tad Vratam. Prano va annam shariram annadam prane shariram pratishtitam sharire pranah pratishthitah tadetanna manne pratishtitam sayaye tadanna manne pratishtitam veda pratitishthate annamanannado bhavate mahan bhavati prajaya pashubhir brahma varchasena mahan kirtya. If you understand this concept, you have gone a very long distance in your spiritual, material, all forms of journey. Mahan Kirtya. You have gone a very long distance in your understanding. First, take a vow never to disrespect food. Prana is food. The air that you are breathing is food. How is that so? The body consumes food and is fixed on the in the prana. That's what it said. Prane shariram pratishtitam. The prana is fixed in the body. You know, you breathe in and breathe out. That is the prana that goes in and out. That's a very common thing. Okay. Okay. But there's a strong interrelationship between prana, the air that we breathe in and out, and the food. That is, there is a digestive process which requires an external oxygen, which is the external source. So that's why it's called Agni. Okay. Agni is a very bad, fire is a very bad mistranslation of, it's in fact not just a mistranslation, it's a very bad mistranslation of Agni. Agni should technically mean a thermodynamic process where heat is involved. That is the way any Agni should be understood. Homeostasis is a good understanding of Vaishwanara Agni, for instance, if I were to put it that way. Okay. So any form of thermodynamic process will require, or if I let me explain it in the form of fire, for instance. For fire to glow, you need the indhana or something that is going can be burned. Then you need a supporter of the combustible substance, so to say, or a burnable substance. In this case, it is food. You need a supporter of combustion, which in this case is oxygen or prana. Then there is an ignition process. The ignition process is provided by the body. Okay. So that prana is what is the supporter of the combustion which is going in. So that is the value of food. If you have understood that level, what it comes to is living person in the normal sense. So that is pratishtita and pratishtitaha. What is there inside and what is the substratum? Okay. So both body takes in the prana, and the prana is where the food is there. So in essence, both are in one another. That is the point it is trying to make. Okay. So living person is in a normal sense, interacts with the body that requires prana to function, and then the body is supported to keep one alive, right? So this prana here is the enabler of the body in the normal living beings. Quite straightforward to understand. The body, this is the body part, this is the prana part. And what is present and where it is, what is the substratum. Both these two interact and these two interact. So that is why prana pratishtitaha and so on and so forth. Okay. So then let's move on. After it says this, it says annamna parichakshita tadvratam apova annam ज्योतिरन्नादम् अप्सु ज्योतिः प्रतिष्ठितम् ज्योतिषापः प्रतिष्ठिताः तदेतदन्न मन्ये प्रतिष्ठितम् स ये तदन्न मन्ये प्रतिष्ठितम् वेद प्रतिष्ठते अन्नमानन्नादो भवति महान् भवति प्रजया पशुभिर्ब्रह्म वर्चसेन महान् कीर्त्या. Understand these things, you will move very, very far ahead in your spiritual journeys or even material journey. Vow never to reject food. First step it said here. It said never to disrespect food. That was the thing it said. Okay. The other way to look at it is, first it said never disrespect food. Here it said never reject food. Never reject the larger world of objects that can be experienced. Never say I will reject it, I will not accept it if it is coming in the right way. Dharma arthaha. In the dharmic, in a sustainable way, if it is coming, please accept it. Wholeheartedly accept it. Take that as a vow. The same thing that goes as prana is taken as body is only a means to a higher understanding, to reach a higher understanding. So take that as an experiential value. Water is food. We understand this thermodynamic process. Fire is fire is there in water and all that. I mean, let's not get into that. But it is basically saying, I mean, it's a very wrong interpretation. As I said, it's the Vaishwanara Agni requires a lot of things. A thermodynamic process can require water to produce and produce heat and retain heat. So water has a very high heat capacity. If I were to explain it in scientific terms, the heat capacity of water is very high. So 70% of all of us is water, which means the heat generated because of this thermodynamic process of digesting food is easier to maintain the temperature for a longer duration with little effort. So it goes into the mitochondria. There as energy centers, digesting that becomes so on and so forth. So that is what it is. So I should change that to thermodynamics, homeostasis process. So let's move on. Okay. Annam bahu kurvita tadvratam prithiviva annam akashe akashonadah prithivyam akashah pratitishtatah आकाशे पृथिवी प्रतिष्ठत तदेतदन्नमन्ये प्रतिष्ठितम् स य एतदन्नमन्ये प्रतिष्ठितं वेद प्रतिष्ठते अन्नमानन्नादो भवति महान् भवति प्रजया पशुभिर्ब्रह्म वर्चसेन महान् कीर्त्या. So if you look at this, there are two parts that is being repeated. Mahan bhavati prajaya pashubhirbrahma varchasena mahan kirtya. Pashubhihi Brahma Varchasena. You will move very far away in the material plane if you understand this. Mahan Kirtya. Sorry, here it means you will move ahead in the spiritual plane very far with a lot of Mahan Kirtya in the material plane is a very naturally given. You will move. Annam Bahukurvita Tadvratam. Vow to maximize food production. Now, this is very important. It is not, when you say annam bahukurvita, make as much annam, produce as much annam, you cannot hoard annam beyond a point. No matter how much you will hoard, it will rot after a point. That's the given, no? So, essentially, I should tell this with a nice experience I had about 6 months back. In fact, this is true of most of our Indian ethos. That brings a true value of our Indian ethos. So I went to visit an old lady. I mean, she was my grandmother's close person. I mean, she's a person who was known to me as from my childhood and who probably I played in her lap. That is the sort of lady and grandmotherly figure for me. I went to her. She's right. She was about 83, 84. She's a widow and staying all alone with some small minimal one person who stays with her. So that's the kind of home and house setup that she had. So the conversation moved somewhere to, how much food is consumed and how much rice and this we take and all that. And I said, I stay all alone. So probably about 4-5 kgs of rice is what I consume in a month. And she was very annoyed with that. And, with this very nice, affectionate, where a grandmotherly figure will sort of admonish you for doing something that she thinks you are not doing right. And one statement stuck to me. This was at around, I went to her house at around 11:30 or so. And that struck me very strongly. And she said, I'm an 83-year-old lady in that colloquial Kannada. And she said, I consume about 40 kgs of rice a month. And I cook rice only once a day. That struck me very strongly. And she said, I also consume about 20 kgs of wheat flour in the night because I make rotis and all that and eat. Struck me very strongly. I mean, at 11:30, this was the statement. We talked a lot after that. And her question was, how can you consume only 4 kgs? That was the statement she was making. How can you only finish 4 kgs? You should be doing much more. As somebody much, much younger as a grandchild level. So that struck me. What is this lady who is 83 years old, probably has one more help at home, doing with 45 kgs of rice, and then with so much of wheat flour? I mean, how do you account for these things? I thought maybe I heard it wrong. She's talking about over a year and all that. Lot of thoughts kept coming. It just didn't reside there. It went on, and as with those grandmothers' homes, as with those old style places and all, when you go there, you don't just go. You go there, stay, have lunch, and everything that's taken as for granted. You don't need to tell them specifically you're going to come for lunch so that they will cook and all. That doesn't happen. In fact, they'll feel bad if you don't have the meal. Whatever time you go, a meal is compulsory and things. So by the time it was lunch, that day I remember, by the time lunch was over, close to about 8 to 10 people had had lunch in their house. Random people who had, I don't think she had even invited anyone or they came. It was just a given. Some watchman down the road, his wife had gone, was in her maternal home for childbirth. Then there were some students from some college. They just landed, 8 to 10 people, just very comfortably, very happily had lunch and went back. That is the ethos that we have. You don't take appointment and go should to have food, or what happens. That was the kind of idea that we have. Anybody comes home, you just eat. That is what is meant by maximize food production. That is just in human, this one. That's our ethos. Whoever comes, just take it, do it. Food is not a question, commodity that is to be, made, what do you say, weaponized. So that's why outsourcing food production becomes a very big challenge. And this was done. Romans outsourced their food production to Egypt. And that saw a huge, they survived for a long time. They kept on attacking Egypt over and over and over again. And then that led to a lot of disaster. Always make sure you're producing food and producing it at home. Don't outsource this. The key message here is, please don't outsource your food production. There's a message to every householder. We know we have a lot of outsourced food production today, and eating has become eating through the app-based food delivery is becoming the thing of the day. But that's a very wrong concept of food, because food is aushadhi, and here it goes as earth is food, Akasha is the eater of food, and it goes on. So the same thing I can explain, same concept. Let's move on. Okay. So na kanchana vasato pratyachakshita, further on food. Tad vratam tasmad yaya kaya cha vidhaya bahvannam prapnuyat. Reinforcing, get more food. Ara aradhyasma annamitya chakshate etadvai mukhatonnagam radham Muhatosma annagum radhyate etadvai madhyatonnagum radham madhyatosma annagum radhyate etadva antatonnagum radham antatosma annam radhyate. This gives exactly what happens when you don't pay attention to the quality of food, the way food, the kind of food you are consuming. Okay. Vow never to turn away anyone who seeks shelter. Shelter here means food in a lot of ways. Shelter is not just about providing a roof on top. Vow never to turn away. Pratyachakshita. Knowingly, pratyaksha. Okay, having known something, do not turn away somebody. Offer them food. Give them if they are hungry. Make sure that is always there. Therefore, acquire as much food by any means whatsoever. Tasmad, yaya, kaya cha vidhaya. As whatever means, however you have to do it. Bahvannam prapnuyat. Yada kaya cha vidhaya doesn't mean, do adharma and get it. That's not what it means. But yes, there is a Shastra. In fact, in Manusmriti, it very clearly brings out, if somebody is stealing food, what is the kind of punishment that one should be giving? If that food is stolen out of hunger, the kind of thing prescribed is very different. If that food is stolen for out of jealousy, what should be done? If that food is stolen to deny somebody, weaponized and done. So there are various ways. So that is very, very important. Aradhyasma annamitya chakshate. Everyone should say, Food is ready. Annam ityachakshate. Please see, food is ready. Please come. Quality of the food offered. Etadvai mukhatonnagum radham mukhatosma annagum radhyate. Wholeheartedly cooked food and very with lot of deep shraddha and affection. Imagine a mother cooking for a child who is just, for her child, for her only, for the child. The kind of wholehearted effort she'll put in and cook. That gives the best way it needs to come out. And that is a huge progress that the mother can make through it. You do that same thing for somebody else also. That journey just goes multifold. Okay. Now, etadvai madhyato nagum radham. In a medium manner. Okay, oh, somebody has come now. How can I handle this? I should have figured it out. If only if I had known, if I should have done, and that half-hearted attempt. If you are cooking out of half-hearted attempt, what will happen? That is this one that is said. Lowest manner and lowest way. Oh, sorry. I should turn them away. Let me find out what is there. What is the least I can do? Okay, there is something lying in the fridge. Let me take it out, throw it into their hands. Bye-bye. This is the most lowest form, and that will bring you to a low level of this one. So be very careful how we are offering food at all levels. Okay. Okay. There is one more part. Probably what I'll do. Okay. This is what is about Anna. So that is where outsourcing Anna. So bottom line of all this discussion around nourishment is that please take food as medicine. Treat food as medicine. You'll never have to treat medicine. You'll never have to take medicine like food. Today, I know a lot of people, whatever age groups, consuming more medicine than the food they are consuming. If you treat food as medicine, be very grateful for the food and do all the things, Annapurne will reward us. That is the message. And this is coming through multiple ways. I have just brought few parts of it, and I can get into very deep discussions around each of these. As I described, prano va annam. That's where apo va annam. I can get into water, how water is food, how agni is food, how akasha is food. What all happens, I can get into very deep discussions. But we don't have, in the interest of making the point that, please consume, please nourish yourself. Let us all nourish ourselves with by treating food as medicine. The moment we start doing that, we'll go a very, very long distance. If we do that, we'll never have to take medicine in the form of food. So that is the whole point. Okay. So I'll take about another 3 minutes before we get into, we'll continue the same discussion in the next class also. I want to talk a little bit about dana, the act of giving. Okay. Okay, if there are, how many questions are there? Can you please raise your hands in terms of okay. So can we, if you have questions, please raise your hands. Based on that, probably I can decide on whether to stop here or can we continue for 5 more minutes? Do we have questions? Okay. Okay, then let me take about 5 minutes before we get to the question answer session. We'll continue the same discussion in the next session also. Okay. So what is dana? Dana is a very deep act. So in the year 2011, Warren Buffett wrote in a conference with all the honchos of the Indian IT industry. There was Warren Buffett, then there was Bill Gates also at that point in time. Both of them, started giving some advice. They both said, billionaire philanthropist, and this was what was reported in NBC News, and this was in US. So, billionaire philanthropists Bill Gates and Warren Buffett urged India's tycoons on Thursday to give up some of their newfound wealth to help India's country's hundreds of millions of impoverished people. So, you are not doing, so essentially the message was, you are not doing charity enough, you better start doing charity. This caught the attention of a lot of people, and there was a lot of talk around this. And at that point, uh, Professor R. Vaidyanathan, who has also written good books on India earning and things from the institute where I'm also a part of IIM Bangalore. He's retired from there as a faculty of finance. He took them head on and gave a stronger statement. He gave a very strong statement saying it is important that Gates and Buffett are educated about our system. A system and ethos of giving, which exist from ancient times and do not need lectures through business channels with live and die for TRPs. Buffett should know that the greatest hero for all times in India, Karna, who gave all his name and interchangeably, even the great article, full article is there. You can read it up I've given the link to that article. Beautifully summarized. So, Danam, the point I'm trying to make is the act of giving, the act of donating is a core Indian value and ethos. We live and survive only based on Dana. All householders give a lot of things. Everybody lives in this society because of the Dana that is given out, wholeheartedly given in a lot of ways. Okay. So there are, again, Taittiriya Upanishad describes how to give dana. I will just stop with that. Shraddhaya deyam, ashraddhaya deyam, shriya deyam, hriya deyam, bhiya deyam, samvida deyam. Okay. So we'll start discussion in the next class from here. For now, what I will do is I will stop the lecture and then get to the questions. Okay, please raise your hands for your questions and we will take one by one. Okay. Okay. First question, I think a brief description of prayer. We'll do that in the next class. That's okay. Patabeda Satyam Va. Okay. So the version of book is okay. There are mostly everything is very same. There's hardly one or two words here and there which will be different. So don't worry too much about it. They're all interrelated and nothing. It's the way Srigeri comes up. It's the way Vedanta Bharati has it. It's the way Asha Vidya Gurukula has it. So we'll just stick to something and more 99.9999. It's a Six Sigma quality. Everything matches. So don't worry too much about Pata Veda. Okay. It could be a psychological or emotional death too. Oh, okay. Fear, as far as death is concerned, when you perceive or when you see death, death is very, you can have perceptions of death, you can see death, you can feel death, you can all these things, it all includes. So yes, psychologically and emotionally, all these things are there. Okay. The ads are self-centric, buy this and you have success. Yeah, success. Yeah, that they are selling something. No, they don't, and that will happen only if you have marketing will tell you it should be mind space. Then how do you sell it? Make sure you blow them with some pump and say this will give you, that is play on the emotions and bloat up the ego. And the bloating up the ego leads to pride. Yes, and Mahodaya, that's what it is. What is the definition of virtuous people in today's age? Okay. This is a very good question. Do we have the right? The question is, I think, right. I'll paraphrase this question. Do we have heroes in today's world? We are a country where we look up to sadhus, we look up to high level people to guide us. This is the country. Our culture is that we look up to elders to guide us in the right way. So the question is, do we have really good, wise people who can guide us in the right way? So I'll answer this question differently. Do you want everyone to be alive and telling you how to be guided by? One way of looking at it. Second way, Are we searching for the virtuous people? Are we searching for the right people to be examples? In fact, I did one project with Salubarada Timmaka. Wonderful lady. What a wonderful lady. You should see her. She has planted so many plants and trees. She got, I think, one of the Padma Awards recently or something. Half the people would not even have heard about her. So, to answer your question, are there role models in today's world? There definitely are. Are they in the mainstream world where youngsters are exposed to? Maybe not. Can we bring them? We can bring them. Do we need to do an effort? We need to put in the effort. I hope that answers the question. Okay. So, Shloka 13, we are trained in a way that results are rarely achieved without skin in the game. The skin in the game has a very different meaning. So, skin in the game is not about, having pride. Skin in the game is about having what is your contribution to it? What is the kind of responsibility we are going to take? Okay, I will define skin in the game that way. See, for instance, I do a lot of projects. I come from a management world. I have a lot of people where I need to delegate work. I need to make sure that people understand and they have the quote unquote skin in the game. So that skin in the game requires you not to have pride, but requires you to have a lot of take ownership and responsibility. That ownership and responsibility, if it is leading to pride as a result of success, I am definitely going to take a second call on in my next project with you. I am very careful about that. I do that. Okay. How do you define pride in Tamil or Kannada for my better understanding? Okay. Durabhimana. Okay. That's the right word. Okay. Please confirm my understanding. When we are giving, if we understand the true and immediate need of the recipient, then that is no. This is not from the giver's perspective. The question I think is aimed towards what is it? What is priceless? So for that pricelessness, it is from a receiver's perspective. It is not from the giver's perspective. For giver's perspective, we'll discuss dana in the next class. Okay, so for the receiver, things can be priceless. As simple as a glass of water can be priceless, as I explained. Okay. Which Prashnottara-Ratna-Malika are we using? Okay, as I said, Prashnottara-Ratna-Malika is only one. And most of it, if you're using the Sanskrit, just the pure shlokas, you don't have any problems. The problem is with the translations, and that's why I have not prescribed any translated book. The simple thing, the reason is that do multiple versions exist as I read on internet? Multiple versions do not exist. There's only one version which is well documented with 67 shlokas. Pata Vedas are here and they're very, very minute, nothing big. So there are books, but English version I would not recommend for simple reason that that translations can go bad. What I am going to do, I'm going to work with Vyoma in creating a version where these same question answers that I have put down in this format, not without explanations, not with explanations and all, but just the translation of the shlokas, the way I have put it, I will just put it as a PDF and then share it at the end of the course. Okay. Okay. How to apply the food related principles? Practically, does it mean complete change of lifestyle? Somebody else cooks food these days. No guests come in unannounced. Well, I think it's got to do with only, I think this is only a very urban centric phenomena in a lot of ways. I do know that, in tier 2, tier 3 cities also, you have a lot of these apps nowadays and you're getting food ordered from outside. So, but by and large, I do see some homeliness in a lot of places. If you are so to answer this question differently, if you are following it at home, your children will follow it. Please don't tell children to do something what we are not following. That will never ever happen. Okay. So be very careful about it. So there is no such thing called outsourcing food production. Okay. So that has to be in-house for us and wholeheartedly. If we are not unable to do it, we have failed society failed individuals, failed families, failed societies at large levels. Okay. I'm not, please don't think that I'm advocating women to cook and all. No, that is not what I'm saying. I'm saying it needs to be cooked at home. I cook for myself and eat. So I know what it takes to cook. It's the biggest blessing I have. Thankfully, I can make time for that, and I cook well and I eat. So that is very, very important, and that takes you a long way. Trust me, it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you very, very peacefully and calm. You cannot just outsource that. Okay. Does our Shastra also talk about food wastage, especially in food weddings? See, they never had the concept of wastage. Now, I'll tell you a cause for wastage, especially given that you bring given that you bring about this food wastage. See, the challenge is that food wastage happens because of multiple reasons. That is where pride comes in. I have excess, so I am going to waste it. That was never our idea. Food is to be fed. Now, whoever comes will feed. Now, when you are saying I'm going to limit the number of invitation to so many people, and this is what, and then there is that attitude of I'm going to come only to eat and not to participate in the function. you know Especially in weddings this happens, and any of the function you're not going. A lot of people don't go to the function to participate and be actively blessing and taking that this one, but to make sure that they are just eating. And a lot of places I stopped going to a lot of functions these days, because I see people coming at the time of lunch or dinner or whatever time of food, when food is served. If you want to go for that, then I don't see a difference between, if I have to go at that time, I don't see a difference between myself and a beggar. Then I'm just begging. I might as well go beg alms and then eat that. No, that's better. So that will take away your wastage part. So if you know you're going to feed everyone, then there's no problem of wastage. You are now restricting to how much you'll give and what. So then people will also start, okay, I'm there only to eat. I'm going to waste. I'm going to take everything that is there. Variety. That is more of a modern creation rather than saying, earlier when people would cook, food would end. And at the end of it, if it did not get over, they would give it to somebody who could not afford that food, and then that would eat. I've never seen the whole talk of sustainability, the way I start my lectures everywhere in all sustainability conferences, is saying my grandmother never had the concept of a dustbin. Forget wet waste, dry waste, and all such nonsense. She never had the concept of a dustbin. So whatever food was there was no such thing called it is going wasted. Somebody or something would have eaten. Okay, it would never go down the drain, if that's the question. So that is a very big problem. That's a modern day problem. Okay. Please allow download of your PPT. No, that download of the PPT will not be allowed. That will be, you'll have to access it online. So it will be a PDF version and it will be put there only. Okay. What about of excess food produced? Do we go looking around where to give? No, there are already enough people to give. Please go. Just see how many people you can give food to. You will it you'll be astonished as to how much food can be consumed by just giving. Try that once. Okay. I'm not saying produce excessively and then go searching. Produce for one small, take very small, what is in our hand. Take an additional cup of rice and go around and see if you can give it to somebody. You'll see that it's very difficult to give to begin with. Then you'll find out the right people who you need to give it to. And then you'll figure out ways to do it. Okay. So no, wastage, never acceptable, never to be wasted. How to give it is something that we need to figure out. We have stopped that. Accepting is also stopped and giving is also stopped. Okay. Selling of food forbidden? No, nowhere is it. It is forbidden. That is not there. We need to be mindful of apatra dana. Dana we'll talk in the next class. Okay. Customarily, our mothers were experts in cooking balanced food, and absolutely, that is true. That is true. See, that was the whole idea of the centrality of the family runs around the women in the family, because they knew exactly what is cooked, what is to be balanced, and how it is to be balanced. That was something that was always taken care of. Now we have changed that, so somebody has to take the responsibility and ownership. I don't see that happening. Okay. So I have one question from Yamini. Please stop.
Namo Namaha. You were telling about stealing of food being punishable in Manusmriti. I just wanted to know if a kid tries to take steal, if you can use that word, or take food from a box which is hidden by the mother because it is, the child should not eat too much or something. So the child steals the food and without the mother getting to know it and eats. Is this also punishable or not?
No, no. See, that for that I need to bring in Krishna. See, that is more of a child act. No, so that and all is not something. So Yashoda also got very annoyed. She also tried to beat him up. What happened at the end of it? So child taking food and all is not something that you need to be afraid about. Only thing that you need to be careful about is the child's health. So from the
Okay.
perspective of a child's health, if you're caring and if you're saying, no, no, you better not steal, you better not take it, that has a lot of value. That is your job. That is your job to make sure the child is not stealing. No.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Anand Mahodaya.
Gurubhyo Namah. Mahoday, today in today's world, we talk about giving food or donating food. Then it becomes habitual, and though people start expecting, then they start expecting, oh, this person gave me yesterday, so I will go and get it. There is no concept of the saying that you teach a man how to hunt, then it feeds him for the lifetime. Then it becomes a matter of people expecting this person donated yesterday, today. How do we cope up with that?
As I said, a lot of these are urban challenges where we are not exposing ourselves to outside world. Corporate urban challenges because it's an urban thinking. Okay, I'll give you a very clear example of what it is. Go to the South Canara belt. Go to the Karnataka coastal belt. Start from say Udupi or start from Mangalore, Katil or somewhere close by. Go all the way to Hornadu, Sringeri, Kokarna, Murdeshwara, Dharmasthala, somewhere Dharmasthala will be in between, then go all the way up to that. Every single day in the afternoon, you go at any temple will feed you food. Okay. Now, has anybody in that village or that city, you ask this question, the population of that city will be somewhere around a few lakhs. Okay, or some 50,000, 100,000, whatever. You ask the people there, how many will actually go there to just eat every single day and come back? That will answer your question. Correct, no?
Okay.
So this whole concept, yes, see, that applies to wealth. In the sense of, I should not give something for free and get rid of that person. Maybe I'll teach that person to earn his living. That give a man a fish or, or teach him how to fish. So there it is more of a livelihood concept that is being discussed rather than just giving food. Okay. Food, everybody will accept it with a lot of humility even to this day in this country. And nobody will just blindly take it and run away. That is my understanding of the travels I have made in this country throughout from north, south, east, west, pretty much anywhere. Okay. So as I gave the example, any temple you go, they will feed you. In fact, there is in Kerala, in a lot of temples, they have this. At 9:15, the head cook comes out and shouts, is there anybody who's yet to be fed? He shouts for 3 times between 9 and 9:15. Only if he does not get an answer, he will close the locks and close for the day. Otherwise, they go back, they cook, they help. So that is our culture. So it goes on. So this is mostly there, and no, in these towns and cities, nobody goes every day to eat. No. So yeah. So with this, I'll just do the Mangalam. If there are any more questions, we can probably take it up after the Mangalam. ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महिं महिषाः गो ब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः अपुत्राः पुत्रिणः सन्तु पौत्रिणः अदनात् सदनात् सन्तु जीवन्तु शरदां शतं सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् हरिः ओम्. Next class will be on the 24th, next Thursday. So those of you who have to leave can leave. Okay. Sharada Chandrasekhar.
Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.
So I had this question of like how British and Muslims have impacted our education, I have a point also which I heard once one of the very, renowned speakers, Sai Deepak, talking in this forum in London, saying that how Raja Ram Mohan Roy, at a particular period, I don't remember the dates, had written to the British asking for some of the Vedic new institutes that were opened up in Calcutta and other places, that how our current education system is so primitive, and literally pleading and requesting the British crown or somebody to really make a change and bring in the the English way of education and all these things. Very recently I heard this talk, and it just set me thinking that probably somewhere we also need to recognize how amongst us itself we downgrade the very system that existed, and all the time looking outside as the the wrongdoers. I just wanted to have your view on this.
So one very important thing, the way Raja Ram Mohan Roy is projected in the history textbooks is not the right role model to take it. Okay, so a lot of things are about Raja Ram Mohan Roy. The British just co-opted him to bring in a lot of things, and that's why he's so hyped up. You'll not see the same thing about Devendranath Thakur or Rabindranath Tagore, for instance, as highlighted as Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Right. So there is a reason why Raja Ram Mohan Roy took it, and a lot of it is written by, you can read up about Raja Ram Mohan Roy, written by Rajiv Malhotra in various books and other expositions. He's exposed and he's brought out true facts about Raja Ram Mohan Roy. That should clear your thoughts. Okay. So yes, it was a mischief. Let me just leave it at that. Okay. Komer Pudari.
Thank you, Mahadaya. Yeah, I was thinking more about the term pride we used. So I interpreted it as more in terms of garvam or self-centeredness rather than self-esteem or self-respect.
Please come again. I didn't get the question, Mahodaya.
The question was, we mentioned regarding the 13th shloka.
13th shloka. Okay.
About the pride, the term, the pride used the way. I know languages are different. So I interpreted it as more in terms of self-centeredness and entitlement. Yeah, not about the self-respect or self-esteem like this nowadays, this parades. So it's not about self-respect or self-esteem. It's about more about entitlement and kind of egotistic.
So ego per se is a neutral entity. Now there are two aspects of this ego. One is, as you said, self-esteem, self-respect, then the self-confidence, then self-respect. All these things are things that we need. But excess of these things is what leads to the self-centricism, pride, overly, as I translated for somebody, durabhimana.
Okay, that's
okay. So that is what is meant as manaha here, not the. Okay.
Yeah, that also kind of mana is also kind of, sometimes it has a good connotations.
Exactly.
Mana can be manam or sadabhimanam.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying.
Dhanyavadah. Samapayamaha. Dhyana shlokas. Sure. The closing shlokas, yes, I'll put that. Okay. Yes, okay. Okay. So thank you, everyone. We'll meet on 24th.